And on the phone, it is the state's Attorney General, Lynn Fitch. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Hey, Paul. Good morning.
It's good to hear from you.
Yourself?
Fine. Live in Washington, D.C. Let me just read a little bit to inform folks what's going on here. A Texas nurse decides to take on the Department of Veterans Affairs, and the Attorney General steps in. And the issue is kind of a strange decision by the Department of Veterans Affairs to begin with, allowing abortion and abortion counseling services at its hospitals. And this comes less than a year after you and a lot of other folks were very, very happy about this, and you leading the state of Mississippi's legal team in the Dobbs and Jackson Women's Health Organization case that ultimately was struck down nationwide against abortion. So what goes on here? And just fill us in on the backside of the story.
Well, absolutely, Paul. You know, we saw this abortion case with the VA come up, and it's just so lawless. There's absolutely no support in the law. They moved on this. They didn't have to. The reason they did it is because they don't like our laws, and they were looking for an avenue really to go around, to skirt what had just come down with our Dobbs case, what everybody is working from. And they saw this was a way to, again, go around the law, to skirt it. And so after years, think about this too, they decided to give abortions in the clinics. They had never done that before. So we can see a total disregard for the law and the status of the Dobbs case.
First of all, just so many questions on this one, General. The first question I have is, would this be for even in states that have outlawed it, or just in the states that permit abortion?
Yes, they're absolutely looking to do it in states that have laws prohibiting it.
Is there anybody else that's filed to be friends of the court on this, as far as the attorney generals in the nation?
Yes, there's been tremendous support for this. There have been 18 states that have supported this together, and I've certainly joined and been a part of that as well.
So what's the next move on this? Because it just seems like, first of all, that an edict or a rules change within an agency of the United States of America would not surpass the Supreme Court ruling.
Well, you know, first and foremost, Paul, they have, again, been filing all these rules and regulations on so many different areas and issues. And, you know, we've had to stand up and we've had to file comments, take them to court for these egregiously formed rules and regulations. And many times they're not getting any input from the public. So we've been very cognizant about staying diligent. And we're moving forward. It'll be interesting. We'll see what the courts say now that we filed, but it's certainly inherent for us. We're going to continue to keep defending Dobbs for the people, and this is one part of that as well.
Just wondering, this doesn't mean everybody who's in the armed forces, any woman who's in the armed forces, does it, or does it mean retiring from the armed forces, or is it both?
Well, it appears the way they have been moving forward is it's all beneficiaries and all veterans.
So, in other words, if you're an active member, you would also be allowed an abortion at taxpayers' expense at a VA hospital.
That is the full intent. But that's not the defense, but that's their full intent is to do that, Paul. Yeah.
You are there, one of the large, I guess this is the largest pro-life event from year to year that's held in Washington, D.C., and I noticed earlier, we were talking about this earlier, that it takes on a little bit different flavor post-Dobbs than it has in other years. The signs are a little bit different. The atmosphere is a little bit different. There is a celebratory environment that is taking place. Well, kind of paint the scene. What does it look like or feel like in Washington?
Well, it's very exciting. I'll tell you, the synergy is very high level here. You know, this is the first march in 50 years, so this is very unlike any of the other marches that have happened. People are excited. It is a celebration time because we're saying goodbye to this last chapter of history, which had Roe v. Wade, and now we're moving into a new post-Roe and a new Dobbs era. So, yes, the excitement is here. Everyone is preparing. Yes, you're right. This is the largest march. This year it's going to start and end in front of Congress. So,
Yeah.
They are preparing. Streets are blocked. The stage is set up, and the speaking will begin today at noon.
I got you. And I know you're busy. Just a couple of other questions here. The final question would be: is what is this got to go back all the way to the Supreme Court, or what's the schedule, the time event on this one as far as this case is concerned with the VA?
With the VA, well, possibly. We'll see the course on where it goes. Certainly with the case we filed, we're not completely sure of the avenue and where it might end up, but we're certainly hoping that we can go ahead and the administration understands and sees this early that they're going to lose this and that they maybe possibly withdraw.
Yeah. You would think that would happen even in the lower court, so we'll see what happens. The Attorney General of the state of Mississippi, any final thoughts here, ma'am?
Well, today, like I said, today's a great day of celebration, Paul. It's very compassionate. It's all about empowering women and promoting life together. And I think we have some great next steps. I think it's inherent. We asked the justices for this job. They've given it to us. They've given the opportunity to move forward to all the people, and certainly the people of the state of Mississippi. And we have some great things on the agenda we need to be addressing, certainly with some of the legislation that I've been involved with that we're promoting in this call of action is to talk about having affordable, accessible, quality child care, to work toward workplace flexibility. I tell you, a big one we've got to address is foster care and adoption. The system is broken, and we've got to connect these children into loving families. They are the ones that are suffering, and we are failing them by not doing that. And then one of the other issues we've got to address is supporting the child support enforcement. We've got to make that happen. The fathers should be equally financially responsible for their children as well. It shouldn't be just the mothers who for far too long have borne that burden. So those are some key things we're certainly going to be working toward and continue to have a safety net built for our pregnancy resource centers, for the women and their children moving forward. And this is all a great opportunity that the Dobbs case has given us to work on.
And there are bills working their way through the legislative process that addresses all of those.
There are. And that's just kind of some highlights. There are so many different facets that we've been working with our legislators on that are in different bills that are addressing these issues. And I think it speaks well of our state that we are moving forward and that action is warranted, and that the legislators understand that the people across the state of Mississippi deserve to have these bills put in place.
I think one of the greatest numbers you could read, and I was thinking about this day before yesterday when I was reading some of them, when you read the numbers of the amount of final adoptions out of the foster care system, and you see how many of these kids now are legally adopted, it just makes you smile that they have a home now, and it's not another foster home, and it's something that's well working toward, and we thank you so very much for your efforts on this. Lynn Fitch, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Be careful and safe travel.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to always be with you. Thank you, Paul.
You got it. Lynn Fitch, the state's Attorney General, live in Washington, D.C.